I'm Maria LaHood. I'm a senior staff attorney at the Center for Constitutional Rights, and we represent Maher Arar, who is one of the best-known victims of so-called extraordinary rendition. Maher was coming home to Canada, where he is a citizen, and he came through JFK Airport here in New York. He was picked up by U.S. officials, detained for 2 weeks. They first prevented him from calling home. They interfered with his access to an attorney, and they prevented him from going to court. 2 weeks later, they put him on a private jet plane and sent him to Syria, where he was tortured. He was, for the first 2 weeks, whipped with electrical cables and interrogated for up to 18 hours a day. He was put in a small, grave-like cell that was 3 feet wide, 7 feet tall, and 6 feet long. He was kept there for over 10 months. Finally, a year later, he was released. There had been allegations that he had terrorist ties. Syria found no evidence of that. Canada investigated and found no evidence of that. He's never been charged with any crime. CCR brought a case against the U.S. officials who were responsible for sending Maher to Syria to be tortured. That was dismissed by the district court, largely on national security and foreign policy grounds. It decided that even if it's true that, as Maher alleges, that United States officials conspired to have him tortured in Syria, that they could not be held liable. So we appealed to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, which also decided in a 2-to-1 decision for largely the same reasons that the U.S. officials could not be held liable. The dissenting judge on that decision said basically that decision gave federal officials the right to violate the Constitution with impunity. We were getting ready to petition the full Second Circuit Court of Appeals to review the case, and to our surprise and delight, it decided on its own to rehear the case. It then, unfortunately, though, also decided to dismiss Maher's case on primarily the same grounds, national security and foreign policy grounds. The judiciary, its role is actually to check executive power when they act unconstitutionally. So what we think the judiciary has done here is actually violated separation of powers. It has ceded all of the power in the national security domain to the executive. So if the president or if a United States official, a federal official, says that it's done something in the name of national security, the judiciary here has said, we can't question you. And that has really broad ramifications for our Constitution, our democracy. It's, not only could someone be sent, not only can a non-citizen be sent to torture or be killed without judicial review, but there's no reason that that couldn't happen to a United States citizen. All along, Maher has really been asking for an apology from the administration, first the Bush administration, now the Obama administration, asking to be taken off the watch list, although no one's ever provided evidence of any wrongdoing, and in fact Canada has completely exonerated him. He's still on a watch list and can't come into the United States and can't travel elsewhere because of it. And to make sure, more than anything, that this doesn't happen to someone else. Without enforcing the law, the law is meaningless, essentially. We are asking the Supreme Court to let Maher's case proceed. Maher's case was dismissed just based on the complaint. We were never allowed to get any information from the defendants. We were never allowed to move forward at all. All we're asking the Supreme Court to do is allow Maher to have his day in court. Even though what happened to Maher originally happened under the Bush administration, President Obama is now responsible for that. He has the ability to remedy the wrong that was done to Maher, and if he doesn't do that, he becomes complicit in what was done. The Obama administration, as far as rendition goes, has said that it will continue to send people to other countries for detention interrogation. although it has, said that it will not send people someplace to be tortured. The mechanisms that it has proposed, which are, getting assurances from a foreign country or monitoring the treatment of somebody once they're in a foreign country, have been shown to be absolutely meaningless with regard to Maher's case. Maher was, when he was sent to Syria, no one even knew where he was for 2 weeks when he was being tortured. Supposedly, Syria gave some kind of assurances, although they were found by the Department of Homeland Security Inspector General to be ambiguous and weren't actually verified. Apparently, they were still assurances. So clearly, assurances can't be trusted. The Canadian consular official actually got access to Maher in Syria and visited him 7 times, but before each visit, Maher was threatened with worse torture if he told them how he was being treated. So he couldn't. He chose, he wasn't able to until finally he broke down in the last visit and told them he was being tortured. So clearly, in order to prevent someone from being sent to torture, assurances and monitoring aren't sufficient. It's not clear why we would even send somebody, a supposed terrorist suspect, someplace to be interrogated. If we really truly believe someone has information, we need to use our laws and our due process. It's also, unlawful to send somebody to some place for prolonged arbitrary detention, not just torture. So, the Obama administration's rendition policy still would violate the law.